I hope you're comfortable. I'm going to tell you a little story.
Shave it up!
Hey everybody, Clean Shaver here. Got a fun video for you today. Well, hopefully a very meaningful video at least. So, today is a very bittersweet day for me, and I'll explain why as I go along. But so for my shave today, I'm going to be doing Mike's Naturals Barbershop. I'll get to why in a minute. Using a Shavecraft 101. No particular reason, it's just a good razor. I've got my Pav Ghost Trails Tulip. It's a great brush. And then Soap Commander Integrity for my aftershave balm. And then for my aftershave, for my scent, Brute, the Essence of Man. And I'll explain why the Brute in just a minute as well. So let's get going with the shave, and I'll tell my story as we go. So, I should mention it is Artisan April, and so I am using an artisan soap. And if you ask me, Mike's Barbershop is just one of the top barbershop scents. It is awesome. Great stuff. So anyway, my story. So today's April 2nd, and it's a very special day for me because of two people. First one is my grandfather. Put a picture of him here. My grandfather was an amazing man. And he, to me, I mean both my grandpas, I was lucky enough to have both my grandfathers alive into my 20s. In fact, they lived about 6 blocks away from each other. Both of them were great men for different reasons. From some similar reasons, but they were examples to me of what a man should be. This grandfather in particular is my paternal grandfather. His name was George, and he, well, I thought I knew him really well. Come to find out, I didn't really. There were a lot of things that I didn't know about him, but like I said, he exemplified what a man should be. He was in the generation that served in World War II. Funny thing about that, though, he wasn't actually able to go into active service or like front lines kind of combat because of an injury that he'd suffered as a young man. Back in the day, the cool thing to do was to get a new pair of cowboy boots and then take them and get them wet and wear them until they formed to your foot. Well, that caused him to lose the pinky toes on both of his feet, or maybe one of his feet. Either way, he was missing a pinky toe. And the military qualified that as an injury that would keep him from seeing combat. Nevertheless, he was drafted, and he served faithfully in several capacities at home. Domestically. He was never sent overseas. Nevertheless, a veteran, had important jobs to do. Anyway, he and my grandmother were married for 65, 66, 67, something like that years before he passed. That's a long time. I've been married for just over 7. Anyway, during that time, there were very few times that my father can recall that my grandfather wasn't working at least 2 jobs to take care of his family. Oh, that's the wrong side. Yeah, no, that's the right side. Okay. To take care of his family. He worked at the electric company. He worked as a wrecker for local car dealerships. And just a good man. And a story my uncle told at his funeral. This is my uncle, who's the second son. My dad was the 6th of 7 kids. Yeah, they had 7 kids. The second son shared a story at his funeral where he was. This is in a small town where everybody knows everybody. When my uncle was trying to get a job, I think it was at a bike shop. He went in, told the bike shop owner who he was, and the words of the shop owner said were, "One thing I know, the son of George will know how to work." And they did. They all knew how to work. I think I learned that from him and my dad. Anyway, he was just a great man. Worked faithfully as a member of his church. Was a wonderful grandfather. I have many very fond memories of going up and spending summertime at their house. And now comes to the bitter part. When I was doing my undergraduate work, my wife and I had been married for almost a year and a half. We got word that my grandfather had been hospitalized because of a really high fever that just wouldn't come down. So I went to see him, and come to find out, it was leukemia, acute leukemia. So he was 87, I want to say, something like that, 87, 88 at the time. Let's see, it was 2009. Yeah, so he was 88. He would have been 89 that year. Anyway, acute, quick onset leukemia. And the message we got from the doctors was, gather your family, because he's not leaving this hospital. So we did. And we went to see him. I'd never seen him look so pale or so weak. But there he was. And I should mention, at the time, my lovely wife was 9 months pregnant. We lived in the same town that the hospital was. In fact, it was her due date. So we all my family was around, and we had actually scheduled a C-section for the next day, April 2nd, right? So we did that. Scheduled for something like 6 o'clock in the morning next morning for the C-section. 6 or 7, one of the two. And we went in. Well, I made sure the night before the C-section to go in to see Grandpa, because I didn't know what would happen. So I did. We came home that night, went to bed, because we had a big day the next day. When I woke up the next morning at about 5:30 or so, there was a text message waiting on the phone. It's from my older brother. 2 words. It had been sent at about 3:30 in the morning. 2 words that said, "He's gone." And unfortunately, I didn't have time. I had to get going. My son was going to be born that day, and he was. So we went to the hospital. Everything went great with the C-section. Son was born about 4 hours after my grandfather passed away, just down the hall in the same hospital. That's why this is a bittersweet day. Because my son, put a picture of him here. He is one of the most wonderful little boys you'll ever meet in your life. And from the moment we laid eyes on him, we knew that, well, you have to understand that I have certain beliefs, and I apologize if this offends anybody, but I believe that they crossed paths before my son was born. And in fact, we have footage of just after my son was born, a couple hours, where he started doing this thing with his lip, mimicking something my grandfather would do. Now, a lot of people would just be inclined to write it off as coincidence, or, he was rooting, or he was hungry, or whatever, but I believe that they crossed paths, and that Grandpa said, "Here, buddy, do this, and I'll know it's from me." Anyway, so a special connection right there. Special little boy. Well, from the time he was born we knew something was different. Could have been it. We just didn't know what. For a long time, he struggled to make it out of the hospital. He had to stay there until he would take, I think it was 5 milliliters, which is not much, of formula. And he did eventually, after a few days. Anyway, we took him home, kept working with him. He hit every milestone late, really late. I mean, he didn't walk until he was 19 months or something like that. Well, after a couple of years of being fed up with doctors telling us, oh, he's just behind, he'll catch up. We just decided, no, he's not going to catch up. There's something wrong and we need to figure it out. So we got in touch with some people that helped us make contact with some specialists at a children's hospital. And they were great. And the specialist came in and did an evaluation on him to figure out what was wrong. Long story short, the reason my son is so special is because he has something called Prader-Willi syndrome. Now, I'll put the spelling of it right here, and I'll also put a link right here to the National Association's website. Prader-Willi syndrome, in a nutshell, is a chromosomal disorder where there's a missing portion of the 15th chromosome in his DNA. What it does, how it affects him, is people with Prader-Willi syndrome struggle from day one in general, and I'm speaking on general terms. There's people falling anywhere along the spectrum as far as intensity for different things. Prader-Willi syndrome is characterized by extremely low muscle tone, as well as an significantly increased hunger drive and low metabolism. And so those last two, the hunger drive and the metabolism, you can imagine with low metabolism and high hunger drive, that's quite a combination. Long story short, my son will never know what it feels like to be full. And it creates quite a challenge for us because he's always hungry and we have to watch everything that he does. There are a lot of other things in ways that it affects his life, but it makes things interesting for us. Anyway, he's a special little boy and we love him. We love that little boy. We gave him my grandfather's name, George, as a middle name because he helps fill that void. So, anyway, the reason for the brute is this is the cologne my grandfather would wear all the time. He'd shave with something that smelled similar to the barbershop. Full of integrity. And Grandpa George was the essence of man. Salt of the earth. One of the best guys you'll ever meet. So, in memory of both my grandfather and my son, I dedicate this to them. If you're curious about Prader-Willi syndrome, please ask. Put it in the comment section below or click on the link that I provide in the description and in the video. I love answering questions about it because it's something that people are curious about. So anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I truly appreciate it. My channel now, oh man, I guess I won't stop bleeding. My channel now is close to 300 subscribers, and I feel very, very blessed. So thank you all for your viewership, for subscribing. Don't be afraid to like, favorite, subscribe, and share this video if you like. I truly appreciate everything that everybody in the shaving community has done for me, and I look forward to opportunities to return the favor. So, just like my grandpa would have done. Anyway, we love you all. Be smooth, everybody. We'll see you next time.